Tonight, an escalation in gang violence. 2 homes firebombed in the early hours, both filmed by the assailants and posted online. Detectives say arrests will be made.
No one should feel unsafe in their home, and that's why I'm asking the public to come forward with any pieces of information to allow us to do our jobs and bring people in front of the courts.
Also making the headlines ahead of Holyrood's third vote on assisted dying, we hear from those weighing up their decision. In sport, Celtic have the chance to be crowned Premiership champions away to Dundee United as the post-split fixtures are announced. And the brothers looking to become the fastest ever to row across the Pacific Ocean. I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. It began with a series of fires and shootings in Edinburgh, and over the weeks the violence escalated and came west. This weekend the ongoing gangland feud took another turn with assaults on a 72-year-old woman and a 12-year-old child. In the early hours of this morning, 2 homes in Bishopbriggs were simultaneously firebombed and videos posted online. A senior detective has described the actions of those responsible as cowardly and despicable, and is warning arrests will be made. Ollie Dickinson has more.
2 targeted fire attacks on homes just minutes apart. The latest escalation in a gangland feud that has spanned the Central Belt. Police say they were called here along with the fire service around 12:50 a.m. Video online appears to show a man dousing the front of the property in a liquid before a second man then sets that liquid and the house on fire. It's understood last night's fires are linked to a spate of recent violence. A 72-year-old woman and a 12-year-old boy were taken to hospital after being attacked at a house on Saturday morning.
The individuals are still in hospital getting treated, so they're in the right place. It was a cowardly attack on an elderly female and a child in their own home. No one should feel unsafe in their home, and that's why I'm asking the public to come forward with any pieces of information to allow us to do our jobs and bring people in front of the courts.
A number of other addresses, homes and businesses have been targeted in Glasgow. Meanwhile, in Edinburgh, a teenager has appeared in court charged with attempted murder after a home was deliberately set alight on the city's Hay Drive. It's believed those are linked to 2 targeted shootings of homes in Niddry back in March. Police Scotland say they've seized weapons, drugs and a stolen vehicle as part of raids linked to the recent escalation.
It cannot be tolerated, and Police Scotland are pulling every resource we've got, not just locally from our local officers. Officers now from my Specialist Crime Division are investigating this. We have a massive presence in the area, both giving that reassurance to the public, but also in terms of what you don't see behind the scenes, which is the investigatory phase, and we will be bringing people in front of the courts in regard to those incidents.
Officers say a number of arrests have already been made and they will continue over the coming days. Ollie Dickinson, STV News.
The First Minister has called on the UK government to scrap the rise in employers' national insurance contributions to help mitigate the economic damage of tariffs imposed by the United States. John Swinney made the call as he set out his response to concerns about the impact of global uncertainty. He also backed demands for the Grangemouth oil refinery, which is closing this summer, to be nationalised. Well, our senior reporter Gordon Cree was at today's media conference at Butte House. Gordon, why is John Swinney saying all this today?
Well, Kellyanne, the old cliche says a week is a long time in politics, and certainly a lot has been packed into the last one, from Donald Trump putting tariffs on everything being imported into America to the UK government having an emergency recall of Parliament to debate nationalising British Steel to save its Scunthorpe plant amid fears it was being run down by its Chinese owners. So this morning, John Swinney said an urgent response is now needed to reflect the changing reality and reduce the risk of a recession. He said scrapping the recent rise in employers' national insurance contributions would help the economy. He also said it's time for the Grangemouth oil refinery to be saved as the clock ticks down to its closure. Given the calls for nationalising Grangemouth have only gathered pace after the decision about British Steel, what is the strategic and economic case to do that other than just short-term politics?
There has been a longer-term argument about securing the future of the Grangemouth site. So I think I've set out for some considerable time that I thought the decision to cease refining was premature. We have a gap between now and the implementation of Project Willow, which the extension of the life expectancy of the Grangemouth refinery would help us to address. So that's the context in which we are operating, and that's why I think we need to take the strategic steps that I believe that I'm setting out today to enable us to do exactly that.
And of course, there's already one eye on next year's Holyrood elections.
Indeed, the First Minister confirmed today he'll announce his new programme for government on the 6th of May. He said to ensure there's a full year for delivery ahead of those elections in May 2026. Now, he was pressed on what his government has delivered. He pointed to child poverty being lower in Scotland than other parts of the UK, and he said the health service was beginning to turn around. Indeed, he has made the NHS something of a personal mission. Lots of targets being set for procedures and waiting lists. Of course, if those aren't met, there'll be plenty for the opposition to attack as voting day draws nearer. Kellyanne.
All right, Gordon, from Edinburgh, thank you for that. Well, in the coming weeks, the Scottish Parliament will decide if it backs plans to allow people to have an assisted death. The bill, brought forward by Liberal Democrat Liam MacArthur, will be the third time the issue has been voted on in Holyrood. But unlike previous occasions, the outcome is tough to call. The balance of the power could hang on the decision of as little as 10 to 20 MSPs who are currently undecided. Alison McCallum has been speaking to some who are weighing up the decision.
My 75th birthday last year, they gave me this hat.
Jackie Roberts has been living with stage 4 breast cancer for 3 years. She's full of praise and admiration for the team in Edinburgh treating her, but living with a terminal illness and watching her parents and close friends die painful deaths has given her clarity on the issue of assisted dying.
I want to have the choice, if I can die a painless death, instead of prolonging my death, because I've seen so many of my friends and that going through that. You can choose to get married, you can choose to get divorced, you can choose to vote, you can choose if you're still and really in pain what to do with them. So why can't you choose for your own life?
In the coming weeks, MSPs will have their first chance to have their say on Liam MacArthur's bill on assisted dying. But it will be the third time there's been a vote on the issue at the Scottish Parliament. Now, for many of the current MSPs, it's the first time they've had to look at this issue. It's the first time they've had a conscience vote, which means the party doesn't tell you how to vote. They're having to listen to their constituents, they're having to listen to campaigners. They've got their own views as well, and that's leaving quite a few of them wrestling with what to do when it comes down to the vote. Up to 20 MSPs are still deciding how they'll vote when the bill reaches stage 1 next month. Among them is Scottish Conservative Miles Briggs, who went to California to see how it operates.
I come from it wanting to see how this can work. I met with a cancer patient actually not long after I was elected, who actually really said this is something they wanted for themselves. This is something which would give them agency over their lives again, be able to reclaim some power over their disease, and not then decide whether or not they would use it. It's not something people will be forced to use, it's something they could. So that's where I've been neutral, really, in this space, and still am undecided. Some weeks you come in here and you'll read briefing papers, you'll have meetings and think this is maybe too big a step, too concerning for vulnerable individuals, for younger people as well who might be captured.
SNP MSP Michelle Thompson is also weighing up the issue.
I started looking at it and instinctively I felt in favour of it. I saw my mother die of cancer and all that she went through. I myself am ferociously independent into how I would like to end my final days. But I'm not making decisions just for my mother. I'm not making decisions just for me. I'm making decisions for huge sectors of society. And that's why I hope that everybody will look into the matter really carefully and consider all these constituent groups as well.
Pam Duncan-Glancy has long opposed any measures and has written to her fellow MSPs about her concerns and the concerns of disability groups.
I do worry about the legislation, but I think there are a number of my colleagues are still making up their minds, and for me that's a good position, because it means that we can talk to them and have very deep conversations in some cases and explain to them what the real concerns of this sort of legislation are. And I think that there is still time to convince people that this is not the right thing to do.
I think the fact that it is spared some of the kind of party political knockabout is very much to be welcomed. It does mean that we can have a fairly passionate argument on the basis of principles around concerns and questions, etc., but to do so in a way that, as I say, does justice to the sensitivity and the seriousness of the issue.
With the vote approaching, Jackie's glad it's opened up conversations about end-of-life decisions.
Before it wasn't talked about, and I think now people are more prepared to come out and say something. They might not make a decision, but they'll give their views on that, on it more so than before.
Alison McCallum, STV News.
A 21-year-old man has been arrested and charged following a disturbance in Edinburgh at the weekend. 3 males, one aged 17 and 2 18-year-olds were taken to Edinburgh Royal Infirmary on Saturday night after police were called to the Portobello area of the capital. The 21-year-old man is due to appear in court tomorrow. The latest transformation works of George Square is underway. Over the next week, the perimeter of the square will be boarded over. Work is expected to last 18 months, which means the square will be closed for Christmas markets and the 2026 Commonwealth Games. The project will include a raised lawn, water feature, sheltered seating and play areas for children.
We've asked people extensively about what they want to see from the regeneration of George Square. They want to see more greenery, they want to see a high quality stone finish, and they want to see a place that they can gather and they can spend time in the sun, or they can come for events. That's what we'll be delivering as part of this project, and I think it's a really significant milestone for the transformation of the city centre.
Is it going to make it more fun for everyone? Easier to scoot and hang out with people? Yeah, get about, definitely. Less traffic.
It'll probably go over budgets. I know what happens with everything. They designate a budget and then it ends up taking way longer and costing far more than they ever planned.
Probably take like 2 years, 3 years, because they said ages ago they'll go finish Sauchiehall Street and it's still happening, so I don't know.
At the moment it's dismal, it's terrible, I don't like it at all. It's quite bad.
Police are warning those attending major music events, including Transmit in Glasgow and the Oasis reunion tour, to watch out for scammers. More than 400 incidents of online fraud were reported last year. The majority related to fake tickets advertised on Facebook, often using hacked accounts. A mum from Renfrewshire has told STV News she's facing a bill of £4,000 to send her son to nursery because of a council policy change. The local authority provides 30 hours of free childcare for all 3-year-olds, but it only applies from the start of the school term, not from the child's birthday. More than 500 parents have signed a petition demanding the local authority reconsider the issue. Vanessa Taff has more.
5 little monkeys jumping on the bed.
Adam will turn 3 years old in September, and just like his big brothers before him, he's set to go to the local nursery.
Monkey, back to bed.
But when his mum applied for his free place, she found out he wasn't eligible until next January.
For families like myself, where both parents are working, it's something that we rely on, and it's a lot of money that we're going to have to fork out to cover that gap, when actually the place is there, vacant and allocated to your child, but the funding doesn't kick into the next term. And it just didn't sit right with me. And they got back to me and said, well, absolutely, I can pay for early access, but to me it's not early, it's when he should be going at 3.
The policy impacting kids like Adam changed last year. More than 500 families have joined Vary's petition demanding immediate access to funded early years places.
We've just had a 9.5% increase in council tax. How are parents supposed to find £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 before the child can go to nursery? And it's all because Renfrewshire Council's decided to delay. And it didn't need to. £125,000 out of a £264 million budget is a drop in the ocean. And really, we just thought it was unfair from the very beginning, and we voted against it, and we'll vote against it again.
Renfrewshire Council said the previous policy went beyond what the Scottish Government required, and their current one brings them into line with the majority of Scottish councils.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
I get that Renfrewshire Council are saying they're already following the national guidance, but to me the national guidance is discriminating against working families.
Until there's a change, kids like Adam will have to wait to access their nursery place. Vanessa Taff, STV News in Renfrewshire.
OK, let's go to your sport now with Raman.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Good evening. Celtic will have the chance to be crowned Premiership champions away to Dundee United after the post-split fixtures were announced. The trip to Tannadice is their first game after the split. It's a 12:30 kick-off and they need just a draw to seal their 4th title in a row. St Mirren, who clinched their place in the top half for a 3rd successive season, host Rangers, while Hibs are away to Aberdeen. The following weekend is the final Old Firm derby of the season, and Celtic are set to be presented with the trophy after their final game at home to St Mirren on May the 17th. That's in the top half. In the bottom, Hearts, Motherwell and Kilmarnock all start their post-split fixtures with home games. In the final weekend of the campaign, Killie host Hearts, while Motherwell are away to Ross County. And you can see all of the post-split fixtures on our website, stv.tv/sport. Well, former Celtic midfielder Stilin Petrov believes the club's board will already be working on a new contract for Brendan Rodgers and says it would be silly to be thinking of letting him go. As his team defeated Kilmarnock 5-1, Rodgers confirmed he will definitely see out the remainder of his deal, which ends in the summer of 2026. Petrov would like the Parkhead boss to stay beyond this.
I mean, he's done a great job, and I think will be silly from the board not to continue with Brendan. You have to look at that, and I'm sure that the board is looking into it because he's been Celtic through and through. You know, he's done a great job. He's a great manager, which is, you know, you don't find a very good manager. He knows the club inside out.
Well, Hearts legend John Robertson believes Neil Critchley needs a statement win this season. That after his team failed to secure a top 6 place in the Premiership. The 0-0 draw against Motherwell consigned both clubs to the bottom half of the table for the rest of the campaign. Hearts face Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup semi-finals this weekend. Hibs continued their great run, defeating Dundee 4-0 yesterday, and Robertson says their city rivals' form has increased the pressure on Critchley.
There's no doubt Neil Critchley needs to win a signature game. I think that would help, and the fact now that the Hearts haven't made the top 6, this right now is his biggest opportunity from now till potentially a cup final to put a marker down and say, you know what, of course I'm capable of winning big games, and that's how big a game it is. But sometimes I say the frustrations are Hearts fans will look across the city and see what's happening there.
Mohamed Diamonde is confident Rangers can achieve something great and defeat Athletic Bilbao and reach the semi-finals of the Europa League. The tie is finally poised following the goalless draw at Ibrox last week. Well, Barry Ferguson's side came back from 2-0 down to draw with Aberdeen at Pittodrie yesterday, and Ferguson says his players are ready to grab their opportunity in Spain on Thursday night. Here's Ronnie Charters.
It was the late show in the north-east for Rangers. A last-minute equaliser after a spirited fight back. Now the full focus is on Bilbao in the Europa League.
Yeah, there's belief. I mean, not everybody can have this chance. You know, the chance we have now to play in the semi-final, and it's going to start on Thursday. So we are really together, and then we just believe. Yeah, we believe we can do it. We've done really well on our away games in Europe, and Thursday is going to be another one. Like I said, we are really looking forward to it, and I'm very confident, and I know something great is going to come our way this time. Yeah.
Not for the first time this season, Barry Ferguson saw his side go 2-0 down, and not for the first time, Rangers had a man sent off. But they rallied, securing a point, and the Ibrox boss knows what challenge awaits on Thursday night.
Huge. Can't wait. I said to them there, as a footballer, as a manager, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about getting into that sort of atmosphere, and what an opportunity we've got. The game's wide open. We need to get it spot on. We do really need to get it spot on, and then that's up to me and the coaching staff to make sure we do over Tuesday and Wednesday before we get into the game on Thursday.
Ferguson revealed a number of players are still being assessed for Thursday's game, with a decision being made in the next 48 hours. Ronnie Charters, STV Sport.
To rugby, and Ali Price says it would be massive to end his time at Edinburgh with silverware after the club booked their place in the Challenge Cup semi-finals. The capital side will host Finn Russell's Bath next month following their win over the Bulls at the weekend. Jamie Borthwick reports.
Edinburgh think they've got it! A huge turnover to seal a place in the semis. Perhaps a huge turning point for Edinburgh rugby. The capital side have been plagued by inconsistency this season, but now stand just one game away from a European final.
It's massive, it's a great, good feeling around the club, and I think in the past where they maybe let that slip, I think the boys managed to show some grit at the end of that game, and to get a home semi, I think is the real exciting part. Since the Munster game, I guess I've seen steady improvement, and the performances have been really good. So, definitely good. The confidence definitely grows from that.
Edinburgh roared ahead against the Bulls on Saturday before the South Africans got back to within a score, but Sean Everett's side held on for victory. They'll face Finn Russell's Bath in the semi-final at the Hive Stadium on the 3rd of May. And after announcing that he'll leave Edinburgh this summer, scrum half Ali Price is determined to finish on a high.
It would be brilliant to sort of close this chapter off by winning something. I think not just for me personally, but for the whole group, for the city. The more you think about it, it's enjoying coming out here on a Monday. There's how many more Mondays are there going to be? I think it's more that, and that sort of cherry at the end would be brilliant, but that's too far away for me to think about right now.
The immediate focus is on the URC, where Edinburgh's battle for a top 8 finish continues at home to the Sharks on Friday night. Jamie Borthwick, STV Sport.
To Cunling, and Bruce Mowat says it feels incredible after Scotland became the first team to win 4 Grand Slam titles in a single season. Mowat's Ring defeated Switzerland 6-5 in overtime in the Players' Championship in Toronto last night, just a week after defeating the Swiss in the World Championship final.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
And just before I go, Kellyanne, well done to Scotland's Jacob Fairley, who secured his first tour win on clay. That's it from me tonight.
All right, Raman, thank you. Well, just as we were getting used to all this sunshine, Sean is spoiling it with news of rain.
Midday Mayan temples, followed by sunny afternoons on the sand. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Very good evening to you. Big changes compared to last week. You might have got a few rumbles of thunder last night, some quite terrific bolts of lightning across parts of Renfrewshire and North Ayrshire during yesterday evening, ending that lovely fine spell we've had for weeks now. But yes, very changeable as we go through this week. Plenty of rain across southern and eastern parts during today, and we'll hang on to the cloud and outbreaks of rain for much of the evening and overnight as well. Temperatures about 6 or 7 degrees. Best of the cloud breaks in the northwest. That'll be the case during tomorrow across the West Highlands, western parts of Argyll and Bute. A lot of dry weather, sunny spells tomorrow. Elsewhere, we will see the rain turning quite light and showery through the morning, but then heavy, persistent rain developing across Stirlingshire, through the likes of Lanarkshire, Glasgow, Ayrshire, and also around the borders, Dumfries and Galway by the end of the day. So turning increasingly wet later on tomorrow. And prepare yourselves for Wednesday. That's going to be the worst day of the week. We're going to see heavy rain. and I'm putting afternoon temperatures only of around 7 or 8 degrees Celsius. So feeling chilly. Now you can see where the brightest highlight is across Cornwall, Devon, Wales, the Isle of Man, and for us stretching into western parts, and where you see those little yellow speckles on the map across parts of Ayrshire, Glasgow, Renfrewshire, Dumbartonshire, Inverclyde and into Argyll and Bute, we could possibly get about 2 inches of rain. So Wednesday, a horrible day, lots of rain, chilly as well, the rain turning a wee bit more showery on Thursday. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, 4 million oar strokes, 30-foot waves and way too much sibling bonding time. 3 brothers from Edinburgh have begun their bid to become the fastest recorded team to row from Peru to Sydney, Australia. And a warning, this report by Caitlin Hutchison might leave you feeling a touch seasick.
3 brothers, 1 tiny boat and 14,000 kilometres of open ocean.
My name is Lachlan McLean and we are currently rowing halfway around the planet from South America to Australia.
Meet the McLean brothers rowing non-stop from Peru to Sydney to raise £1 million for clean water projects in Madagascar. Because if you're going to suffer, it may as well be for a good cause.
Well, I've got to be honest, I'm seasick just watching you at the moment.
If there ever was an ultimate test of sibling relationships, this is probably it.
You're rowing through the day, through the night, and that is the hardest aspect, I think. The sleep deprivation, the compounding effects on the body, blisters, salt sores.
Jamie, the middle brother, he's been a bit seasick overnight. So he's been, vomiting all morning. So, yeah, but I think morale is very high.
It's not their first rodeo. The brothers broke 3 world records rowing across the Atlantic in 2020, but they've not slacked on getting ready for this expedition, including capsize training, working out how to carry enough supplies to last the whole trip. The answer, vacuum-packed toilet paper and around 500 kilograms of freeze-dried food, not forgetting the essential haggis, neeps and tatties.
It's a very lightweight carbon fibre boat. We've then added hundreds and hundreds of kilos of food, so it's not very light anymore. But we've got enough to sustain us for 150 days or a week more, and a fishing rod, so we can catch some fish, hopefully to supplement the diet.
They have more than 100 days at sea still in front of them as they row non-stop and unsupported. But who needs sleep when you're breaking world records? Caitlin Hutchison, STV News.
Wow, what a challenge. Well, that's all for now. From all of us here in the team, enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.